Go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining. This is the first time we're kind of changing up the format a little bit to incorporate some demos and presentations. So on the agenda today, we have Rick Dietz from the city of Bloomington, Indiana, who's going to be going over some of the tools and platforms that they use and have developed, and which incorporate Open311. And then after that, I think we'll have some time for questions, and then we can go over some other updates. So I think Andrew Nicklin had sent something to the list just recently about the 3-in-1 bulk data spec and sort of documenting kind of what the sort of validation sort of functions might be. So Andrew might want to talk more about that and some other related work going on the bulk data spec if there's anything to report there. And then we can just sort of open up for any broader discussion. But before we kick it off, it might be nice to just get a quick roll call for those who've joined, just so we know who's here. So if you want to just quickly mention your name and affiliation if you'd like, maybe starting with the folks who I see here in Google Hangouts. Maybe starting with Ben.
Yeah, this is Ben. Okay. Ben Clark, and I'm at the University of Oregon. I'm a faculty member and study 311 systems quite substantially. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Ben.
Andy Mamoni, I'm from San Francisco. Been following the Open311 project, and we've been using it for a number of years.
Dave Mitchell, Connected Bits. We provide some of the Open311 implementations for a number of cities.
Thanks. I see Zach.
Zach Markin, Civic Analytics Network at Harvard University.
This is Nianwei Liu. I'm from Silver Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are looking into Open311 specification and try to implement that with our homegrown CRM system. So this is from my first time calling in this, so I may have some questions.
This is Dennis Peters with IntelliTime Systems Corporation. We're integrating Open311 into our public sector workforce management and scheduling application.
Great, thanks. Is there anyone else I missed other than Rick? Note that there's multiple copies of me, so I have a separate computer for screen recording, but is there anyone we missed? All right, well, thank you all. With that, Rick, I think we can hand it off to you if you want to quickly introduce yourself and then just kick it off. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Philip. Appreciate the opportunity. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I assume that's good. All right, great. Also, I'm here in my office with Cliff Ingham, who's our lead developer here at the city, and he's worked pretty intensively on our Open311 applications, as well as a number of other tools that we have out there. So if you have some more technical questions about our systems, I'd be happy to field them if I can, and turn them over to Cliff if I can't, and he'll correct me. So we've been part of the Open311 ecosystem for quite some time. We're one of the early cities to adopt the platform for our own reporting work. Our work first started as a proposed collaboration with Portland and San Francisco, and for a number of different logistical reasons that didn't work out. But the application that we had started developing as part of that collaboration ended up turning into the uReport app, which is available for iOS and Android. And that's part of our overall suite of applications. And I'm not going to demo that because I don't want to stop the screen share and not be able to figure out how to get back to it working. But if you wanted to see what our uReporter app looks like, it's available for download in Google Play and in the Apple Store. Just do a search for uReporter and you'll find it. That mobile application is unique in some ways in that it's a generic, essentially a generic Open311 client. If you have a functioning compliant Open311 endpoint within uReporter, you can point the app to it to read the reports and potentially submit them. We use the generic one, but we also have essentially a white labeled version of that we just called Bloomington, the Bloomington app, and both of those are available for download. And within uReporter, you can pick amongst a handful of endpoints, one of which is Bloomington, and that'll get you submitting issues into our system. That's the front end, at least from a mobile app standpoint. I'm moving over to the screen share now, and we also have essentially a JavaScript that operates as an Open311 client that's embedded into the web page, and so the uReport requests a city service page, which is showing here, is querying from our Open311 endpoint to populate all of these items. It's exactly the same type of interface components that you would see in the mobile app itself, and it's running on top of our Open311 endpoint. That website and then also the mobile apps are the front ends from the standpoint of interface with constituents. On the back end, we have what we call uReport, and I'm switching over to that, which is essentially a lightweight CRM system that has an Open311 API. It's pretty, I think, pretty straightforward. We have a lot of different issues that you can see that are within uReport. Not all of them are public and exposed to the outside world for public submission. We use a lot of this for internal workflow, but the ones that are exposed, any issue that's submitted will pretty much instantaneously show up here on the back end for us to take a look at. I'm going to just kind of show you how you can do some quick queries. So we'll look at in the categories. I'm not going to select that actually, but if we wanted to see all of the categories that are available for like, what do we have? Public Works down here. Let's go to ITS. Now we're looking at only the ITS applications. If I want to, actually, we don't have any open open issues with ITS right now, but you can narrow down the query here, kind of in real time. I'm going to try to find something that's a little bit better. Yeah, what's a good one?
Excessive growth.
Yeah. All right, that's okay. So we'll look at excessive growth, which are basically complaints about overgrown lawns for the most part. A number of different departments have been forwarded that. We have open and closed ones. We'll go to open. We can basically see this as a text list. We have a map display that you can zoom in on, and then for some departments, they need to print these out, and that's kind of the very basics of the interface. In terms of entering in a new case, that can be done here in this system. So a number of our departments use this to essentially log in calls and other issues that they receive. Issues come in through our applications, the website, and through mobile devices. And to create a new case is fairly straightforward. You can choose this. We kind of preload this, since I'm in the IT department, with IT-related issues, but other departments' issues are available. So anybody within the city can create any kind of issue that you want, which was one of the main goals when we established this initiative, so that somebody in the utility department, if they saw an issue for public works, they could use the mobile device, use their tools to be able to put their eyes and ears to work for other departments. So I think I'll see, where is graffiti at? It's not ordered. Yeah. No. Looking for graffiti right now. There we go. So this interface is similar to the public reporting interface. You can pinpoint a location, add comments. If you're logging a report, then we log contact information, how it came into the city, if there's a desired response method, description. And for graffiti, we're interested in knowing if they're property owner, public-private property, and all of this is coming off of the kind of our Open311 definition for graffiti issues. I probably can't save this, but because I didn't include all of the required fields, so I'm going to go ahead and do some of that right now. Okay, so that's saved. If we go back to cases, you see that the new graffiti item shows up right here. Once it's in, if it was assigned to a person, they've received an email notification indicating that it's come in. And then there's a number of different actions that can be taken on the issue, including closing it, but I'm going to take the action of deleting it, because anytime I do a demo and add graffiti, I'll get like an angry call or email that there was something added to somebody's work queue. So I'm going to take care of that right now. So that's how we add an item. If you want to do searches, you can do location-based searches. When somebody calls in to the city, you can do kind of an instantaneous search. Oops, sorry about that. An instantaneous search for existing cases that they, and if there's a record of them in the system, so that we have a centralized record within the city of issues. And then we have some fairly basic but helpful for us reports and analytics that help us to understand just what's coming in and happening with our tools. So we can see with assignments, individuals and what issues are assigned to them, what's happening in the various categories, with them being assigned within the city and to be dispatched and taken care of. For a number of the items in there, we have SLAs, service level agreements that are tied to how well they're being addressed and how timely. That's a general activity. And then just to look at this volume one is looking at the items that are coming in from the public, not necessarily internal workflow, and just how much is being generated in each of the categories for all of our departments. That's the uReport system. I think before we kind of maybe take questions, I just want to highlight a few other things that we're doing. All of the data in the system we've made publicly available, and we've been following the bulk Open311 spec as that has evolved, and we're making that available on our open data portal. We're running CCAN for that. And then on top of that CCAN and open data, we have a pretty lightweight performance dashboard that we're just now rolling out, which is looking at performance on our Open311 issues, performance that's coming from uReport data, roughly corresponding to the SLAs that we have in the system, and then other data sets that are in the data portal. Our model for the dashboard is to basically be applying the performance analysis and metrics to data that's in the data portal. Both as an incentive for departments to get their data in, but also to make it more manageable, so we can pretty much automate the performance assessment anytime that data in the data portal is updated. And we conceive of these systems, the Open311, the export of that data into the data portal, and the dashboard as being pretty tightly related, but they're all separated with APIs and service calls. So that's kind of an overview of our suite. Again, it includes the mobile applications, the web interface, and the uReport CRM. They all work together in tandem. We have a number of cities that are using uReport, and we're happy to discuss sharing the code. It's all available on GitHub. We have a pretty active development team, and we'd appreciate any questions, feedback, comments that you might have. And I hope this was useful in showing you what we're doing around Open311. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. And so I think we'll open it up for questions for maybe up to 10 or 15 minutes before we move on to the other items on the agenda. So if folks have questions for Rick, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Rick. This is Dennis from IntelliTime. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. What does the user see when a case or issue is assigned to them? Do you have that?
A user of an internal user or an external public?
Correct. Like the city employee that's going to go fix the sidewalk.
Okay, so I'm currently logged in to the system, and I'm a user of the system. So you're seeing what I see. Initially, for some of the city staff, they'll simply log into uReport and check their issues. For me, I don't receive them on a daily basis, but if an issue comes in and it's either a issue that is by default directed to me, or if somebody has referred an issue to me, then I'll receive an email notification with a link back here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up an issue. Let's see the website. So this was essentially what I would see for this, and I'd have the ability to take action if I did, although this is already closed. So I have a number of actions that I can take. I can edit. I can reassign it to another person. I can open and close. I can change the status from this menu. If there's a geographic location associated with it, then I see a map. If there's an image that was submitted through a mobile device or the website, then I can see that media as well. Okay, I'll find a better case for you. Category.
Well, it appeared as if you were logged in as an administrator because you had so many things you were seeing. That was my that's the question.
Oh, right. Yeah, the users are seeing a lot of the same things in terms of like editing an issue. I'm gonna see if we've got like an excessive growth that's open.
All of the users would see the same thing. The administrative role that Rick has, all of the administration stuff is tucked away up in the top right underneath the admin tab. Normal employees would not have that stuff. Otherwise, what you see on the screen is all the same for staff.
Understood. And my only other question was, could you show me how you define an SLA?
Oh, how we would go about doing that? All right. Yeah.
Okay.
So a number of ours don't have them. In fact, we're working on kind of unifying that with what's in our dashboard. But essentially, this is where those would be set, and they're also part of the category themselves. So if I go to categories and I look up, excessive growth, here's information about it, and I have the ability to edit those values there. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Additional questions?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Nianwei Lu. I'm from City of Charlotte, North Carolina. So my question for you is the CRM system you guys mentioned, uReport. So is that something that you guys built on in-house that just based on PHP?
Yes, and it's evolved over time. What you're seeing now is our most recent iteration. I think it was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, a couple months ago we pushed out a 2.0.
Right. So yes, in-house developed. Over the past few years, we've had some contributions from the outside, but most of the code is from in-house. We had a couple of not Code for Americas, but Google Summer of Code interns that worked on our Open311 projects with us for 2 years. But most of the code is developed in-house, and of course it's all available on GitHub if you want to take a look.
So I just went to the site. So you guys, Open311 is an add-on to the whole CRM ecospace, I would say, ecosystem, that is one of the additional add-on to it.
The CRM, as we've written, this uReport is our CRM. Built
Okay.
in is an Open311 endpoint.
Okay.
It's not an external plugin or anything like that. I have not built a modular system to be able to add new modules or anything like that.
But all of the code that makes the Open311 endpoint function is there. You know, if that's your where your curiosity is at.
Yeah, because we had a homegrown CRM system as well for many years, and we don't have an Open311 endpoint, so that's why we are actually looking into to build a endpoint for that system. So, thank you.
We're happy to share.
Yeah, I saw that. I'll download your guys' code. We're a .NET shop, so but we'll see. You know how much we can take advantage of you guys' work. So hopefully, we can learn a lot from you guys and help us. So
great.
I have a question about your customer calls. This is Zach Beatty from C-Click-Fix. I noticed you have the while it's not listed separately across the navigation bar, under the case actions, there was the concept of logging a call. I'd be interested, just broadly speaking, like how you separate the concept of your kind of customer call logs, presumably as a separate, association to customer cases. The context there is that, we've seen a lot of Open311 data sets that, some have separation between the concept of a case or service request and a customer call, and some that don't have the structure of a customer call, just log calls as new service requests or new cases. So, you can get, it's a mixed bag when you're looking at an open data set of Open311, whether customer calls were kind of merged into it, or whether, as you have, perhaps there's a nice clean separation.
Well, I don't know if it's separation or not. The CRM tracks everything at the issue level or the service request. Calls are logged against a service request. So these tickets that you see are a problem that was reported somehow. And then on one of those, we have a history of communications that have happened on that ticket or service request.
So not every call is going to hit this system. A number of them in the mayor's office do if they require some kind of follow-up. We have a category type that's basically Office of the Mayor correspondence. And so they make a determination about whether it's something that needs action or a follow-up. And then it stays in the system until that correspondence has been completed and the issue closed.
So would they log a new case if, let's say they wanted to log something for follow-up? Would they search for a case and log a call against that case, or potentially just log a new case?
If there were a new case, then they would. But typically, the way that they would interact with the system is somebody calls in, and I'm, John Smith. They would look up to see if there's additional, if that person already exists in the system, to see what kind of cases they have. If they don't have anything, then they, as in part of logging their interaction, they would create that an account, or really just a representation of that person in the system, and then connect that to an issue. So you are if it's in the system, it's connected to an issue.
Great, thank you.
So Rick, one of the interesting concepts in Open311 was the idea that you could also essentially geofence items, so that if something reported to you was really handled by, I think you're in Monroe County, that it would be routed to them. Has there been any discussion with other entities about giving citizens one place to report, but then letting the tool route to the correct organization?
There has been quite a bit of discussion about that over the years. As a jurisdiction, we're focused on the city of Bloomington, but you're correct, we are in Monroe County. I would like to see them adopt it, but I think one of the things that would be interesting in exploring there is how you can federate Open 311 systems to be able to exchange data from them, because we do get a lot of calls and a lot of emails and even a lot of uReport items that really are the business of the county, and of course they get a lot of items that are the business of the city, and figuring out a way to better exchange that information would be helpful. I'm not sure about the status of initiatives on that, but you're right to identify that as a bigger issue. Ideally, you should be able to pull up your smartphone and make a report of a pothole, and because it knows where you are, it knows what the correct Open 311 endpoint is for that particular issue, and routes it there. But you need some kind of index or some kind of GeoDNS type system that knows jurisdictional boundaries or understands jurisdictional boundaries to be able to do that. But that's an area that is very interesting and intriguing for us, and probably for a number of folks on this call. And it would be nice to make some headway there, but that's a bigger problem than we've been working on with our system at this time.
Do you see it more as a technical problem or a political problem to get everybody to work together?
I mean, there's certainly that, but I think that it's a systems infrastructure problem too.
No.
Having smart systems. Again, that kind of centralized, jurisdictional, DNS of a sort that says, I'm standing at this particular point, what government entities provide services here. So for me, it's, right now I'm in Bloomington Township, in the city of Bloomington, in Monroe County, in the state of Indiana, in the USA, and some of the services that might be relevant, some of the things that I might want to report could be going, and maybe should be going to any number of those. It's knowing what are those supported services and what are those boundaries, and we don't have a system right now that provides those kinds of services that we could tap into, but we would love to be able to.
Thank you.
This is Nian Liu again from Charlotte. Just a curiosity, so you guys have a Open 311 endpoint, but does your uReport application itself using the API, or do you know any other clients that actually are hitting your API? Basically, how Open 311 API works for you.
The uReport application does not use the API internally. The uReport application is all native to itself. It does expose the Open 311 API.
But do you know any existing outside clients that are actually consuming that API actively?
Well, our GeoReporter app and our Bloomington app do, and the website, JavaScript, pull from the API for the list of issues, and then submit the issues through the API, and then those incoming Open 311 reports are placed in our CRM system.
Okay, so you have a web service and your mobile app using that API. Do you have third-party clients hitting you, like Cyclic, anyone like that?
Right now we do not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's certainly possible. just in terms of our approach, we haven't we haven't enabled third parties, but we certainly are open to considering that. But
Okay.
It's certainly possible. It is a standard compliant Open 311 endpoint. So any client that speaks that language and that you want to provide an access key to would be able to utilize it.
When you guys build the Open 311 endpoints, have you run into issues like in your own CRM system, you were able to handle some situations that not covered by the API? One example I can see. Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a number of modifications and tweaks that other cities have made to the Open 311 standard, over the course of years, in terms of how we're, for instance, accepting media, images, and there may be some other tweaks that cities have made as well. But I think we've tried to document those, and those adjustments have been part of the discussion about updating the Open 311 standard as well.
Okay, because when you do the demo, I noticed that when you show like you can search a person by putting first name, last name, and search, and that is not really described in any Open 311 specs. And in our case, our CRM allow users to enter service request in a special way that seems like not covered by those. So just wondering, if you guys have any thoughts, during you guys' implementation of that endpoint, what kind of workaround you have to run into? But I can give an example for our case. Like we have a bulky item, and the user can have an open end. They can put in 5, 10. So in the sense that the service requests allow you to have a no upper bound sequence, but those are not really defined in the specs. So,
well, with ours, we've tried to be as close to the Open 311 specification as we could, but also support things like the image uploading and handling. The Open 311 standard does support a number of I think I showed it earlier on the graffiti case, where you can have essentially check boxes, a number of different fields as well. I'm not quite sure if that's what you're getting at.
If you're talking about being able to do like validation and of a service request, the Open 311 spec allows you to send an error response back if it doesn't pass validation. So if a service request is submitted through Open 311, the Open 311 controller hands that off to uReport internally, and uReport is at that point it's just like any other ticket, and all validation happens on the service request. If there's a problem, the output of the Open 311 service request includes an error message or whatever is necessary to show that it didn't pass validation.
I'm actually not specifically talking about the validation, but the validation, yes, it's an important one. What I actually mentioned early on was the metadata about the service request itself. For example, the client, if they consume an Open 311 specs, they would be able to present an option, say, my attribute would be a 1 to M, for example. So the client can produce a UI like add one more, add one more, add one more. Because like if you have 5 items to pick up, bulky items, or 6 or 7, that's an undefined number. But the specification doesn't really specify that, allow user to make additional entries attached to a service request, things like that. So right now we are looking.
Each one of those items would be a separate service request. In your client, you can display that information to the user however you like. and you could collect all of the service requests for that one user and display them as grouped or however you want to. But according to Open311, each one of those would be a separate service request.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how, because we have an existing workflow even in the downstream system, how the service requests should be organized, things like that. So that is a gap that we are looking to bridge.
Hey,
so how those were divided.
This is Andrew. I would just add to this that, bearing in mind that the Open311 exchange is conducted through XML and JSON, right? So you have the opportunity to add additional fields in there that are not necessarily compatible with the spec, or not included with the spec, but can support your own use cases.
Yeah.
So you can extend JSON and XML any way you want to. There are some risks with that, right? So like one of them is that you might have a namespace collision later on. If if the Open311 spec evolves and they decide to use a field name that you're already using, then that's a risk. I mean, I think it's a low risk, but it's a risk. And the other risk is that other clients that are Open311 compatible might not be able to support that particular use case in your system. But generally speaking, because the formats are extensible, there's no reason why you couldn't do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there's a page on the wiki that documents some of the extensions that have already been implemented in many cases by multiple implementers. So like media handling and things like that. And there's also a section on extended attributes. So I can send out a link to that just as far as examples of where folks are doing that. It sounded like there may have also been a question that was looking at potential sort of more administrative functionality for the API, and the API was really designed for clients that were citizens, sort of end users. But there, certainly have been conversations over the years about extending that or having a sort of a separate set of methods that were focused, with necessary permissions that would allow some sort of more administrative functionality as well. But that hasn't received as much extension as the sort of citizen-facing needs. So we're running out of time, so it looks like we have about 10 minutes before the hour, and I just wanted to see if we could open it up for a few other things. I don't know if Rick, if you have any other closing remarks, or if folks have any additional questions to follow up with you, if you have anything to say there.
Sure. Just thanks for the opportunity. We're happy to talk about what we're doing, and we're interested in helping build the Open311 community and move it forward. And use calls have been part of that. And again, our code is available on GitHub, and we're happy to have conversations with anyone that might want to use it in whole or in part. And thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Good, thank you, Rick. And so, this is a new format that we're trying out. I'm also, trying to do a screen recording of this. Hopefully, it's working out properly. I'm sorry if it doesn't, but I'm doing my best here. But I will share that out, and then I'm also inviting more folks to who are interested in giving presentations for future months to let me know. So I already have a few folks signed up there, but please let me know if you're interested in getting on the agenda for an upcoming call. I think we have a few things tentatively set up for next call, and actually, Andy, I don't know if you've been in touch with the Civic Bridge team from about possibly presenting. Andy Mamoni, I don't know if you've been part of any of those conversations. I think you're on mute. Well, in any case, we
yeah, I was on mute. We are working with Civic Bridge. We're actually looking at having them work through some menus and stuff like that.
Okay, so I don't know if they've been in touch with you about this, but I think they will be presenting next month. So it'd be great if you're able to join as well. But basically, it sounds like there may be an opportunity to kind of just have a presentation of some analysis of how 311 is working in San Francisco. So we'll follow with more details there. But I think that's one presentation to look forward to next month. And I think we might also have something from another person as well on the agenda then. But So just in our remaining few minutes, want to open it up for any other questions or comments. Like I said before, I know Andrew Nicklin had mentioned some updates on the uReport bulk spec. There was also, I think, a question from Phil Rumans about sort of like, possible extensions to the way that you can represent the hierarchy of categories or keywords or service requests, types like that. But maybe I'll just hand it over to Andrew Nicklin if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to bring up about the bulk data spec.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. And I'll keep this short because I know there's other people who probably want to talk. So first of all, thank you, Rick, for that really great presentation. And also thank you for being possibly the very first to release data under the bulk specification. I also wanted to mention to this group that the city of Louisville has also released their data in the spec. And Phil, I have a pull request into you for some changes to the wiki to reflect those new updates. So I'm really excited that we now have kind of two cities that are publishing. Louisville needs a little bit of tweaking with the data they're publishing. It's not perfectly in alignment with the spec, but it's very close. And I'm really excited. They were actually trying to join this call, but then I sort of gave it to them at the last minute, so they weren't able to. But I'm hopefully going to sort of pull them into more conversations. In addition to that, I've also been working on the start of a data validator for the Open311 bulk spec, and the way that works is there's a document that was shared with the mailing list. I would really value input on that, but what I'm trying to do is define all the cases that we need to look for in the data. So, is there like bad formatting of the date field? Is there like inconsistencies where like the closed date is before the open date? Things like that. So the more ideas that we have that we can test, and I'll basically turn that into, some sort of script, probably in R, because that's what I'm playing with at the moment. But I think, we could also do that in any other language and maybe host it on the web somewhere so that anybody can kind of pump their data through it and get a validation report. And then the last piece of that is that I just recently, just this morning, actually published a blog post on the GovRex blog, and it's just basically with a couple of sample visualizations using R and using the bulk data spec as kind of the back end for that. So the nice part is that code is up on GitHub. It's in a gist, and it's reusable. So if anybody else starts publishing data in the spec, they'll be immediately able to reproduce the visualizations for themselves. And that's it for me.
Hey, Andrew, this is Andy from San Francisco. A question for you. Are you doing anything about like de-identification of data in free text fields? Because that's something we're still struggling with a bit. I know a long time ago when the whole Open311 thing started and open data, there's just the concept or the concern of personal identifying data in free text. So I know that I saw, you guys in Bloomington, Rick, you're publishing all the open requests regardless of, the kind of data that's in there. And just a curiosity if anybody else is looking into that.
This is Andrew. From the bulk spec side of things, there aren't actually too many fields that are open for free text. I think there's maybe two, possibly even just one. So it's an issue, but it's not it's not something that the spec specifically tries to address.
Yeah, it's a description field that, we'd love to publish all the description out because it's interesting, but there's just a concern about names, phone numbers, contact information that, get stuck in there. So, all right, thanks.
Yeah, I know I can point to some references where some of those conversations have been happening in the federal government. I know for various notice and comment systems from like the FCC and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau have been working on that problem, and then I think NIST is also working on some recommendations for that as well. So I can try and point to some of those resources.
I mean, there's a lot of that, especially related to medical, healthcare, HIPAA, but those are all pretty large systems, pretty complex and expensive.
Yeah, no, I'm
data. So
I'm actually just talking about doing automated analysis of free text in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else they want to bring up or comments or questions? I unfortunately don't have any other significant updates to raise as far as the work on the API validator, but can refer to that again for folks who are interested. So So basically, the current uReport version 2 API validator is still, I would say like 80% complete or something like that. It's not validating all the different methods yet, but that is still a work in progress. Certainly welcome feedback or comments or questions there, but it's still work to be done. And I think some of the work on the bulk data spec will help inform some of that as well. But yeah, happy to open up the floor just for the remaining 2 or 3 minutes. And
yeah, this is Dennis with IntelliTime. I had one more for Rick. Nice job. I enjoyed the presentation. My question is, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently next time?
To do all over again, well, yeah, this has been a big effort from the very beginning. Headed to do over again, I would, really like to have, more government partners, working together, and we made a stab at that, but ultimately, even if governments have kind of alignment and vision around software tools or open source, there's a whole lot of things that differ, just in terms of whether it's timeline, change of leadership, code quality, a whole bunch of things that make collaboration challenging. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. Yeah, I think the big thing would be to try to find more partners earlier on, but that proved hard at the time. I don't think it would be less hard if we rolled back the clock knowing what I know now.
Thanks.
Hey, this is Ben Clark, and I'm just going to throw out there as a academic researcher really interested in this topic and all the stuff that y'all are doing. If there are, particularly from the cities, particular topics that you have a need for research on, questions that you need answered that maybe your data could answer, but you don't have the time or the manpower to do, I will offer myself up. Because I'm always trying to find ways to utilize my data efforts and my research efforts to actually help governments directly with the questions that you need rather than the ones that I come up with myself. So, yeah, and that's it. So.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining, particularly Rick for presenting, and look out for the next one of these next month with more of the same. And yeah, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.